Wel, noswaith dda bawb, a croeso mawr I gyfarfod Heneb yn Wythnos Cymru Llundain. Good evening, everyone, and a warm welcome to Heneb's event in Wales Week in London. I'm Carol Bell, Chair of Heneb, but I'm also the Treasurer of the Society of Antiquaries, which is based in this historic building. And it's a building in which those interested in Britain's past have been gathering for 150 years to discuss the past of this country. So I'm particularly delighted to be in this building in Wales Week in London, introducing some of my colleagues. And somebody else, two people I should introduce are our President, Professor Martin Millett, who's sitting in the front, Professor of Roman archaeology, and no spoiler alerts, I think there may be something for Martin before the end of the lecture. And Natasha McEnroe, our General Secretary, who's sitting in the front row. And if you like what you see in the building, in the Society of Antiquaries, there's always affiliate membership. You don't have to become a whole fellow, as it were, to be able to frequent this building. And there are leaflets over the other side there at the end. So I've greeted you in Welsh at the beginning. I'm going to carry on in English today so that everybody can hear the same thing at the same time. And that's even very important when you have two dialects of Welsh going. But in any event, I just wanted to say at the outset how important the Welsh language is to us as an organisation, how many of our meetings internally and externally take place in the Welsh language. And as you'll see in some of the displays in the front here, we use it fully in our communications. I think it's safe to say that this is the first time Wales Week in London has had an archaeology event, although Gymdeithas Cymru National Museum Wales has become a regular contributor to Wales Week and will be holding an event tomorrow night on their forthcoming Gwen John exhibition. But I'd like to open up tonight, if I may, with a few words about Heneb, which was formed just under a year ago, before I pass on to colleagues who will go into speak more about the recent work that's adding almost daily to our understanding of Wales's past and its history. So to quote Dylan Thomas, to begin at the beginning then, Heneb is an independent charity dedicated to conservation, investigation, recording and promotion of the historic environment of Wales. On the 1st of April 2024, the 4 regional Welsh archaeological trusts merged to form Heneb, whose official name is the Trust for Welsh Archaeology. Mirroring the activity spheres of the 4 former trusts, which were also charities, Heneb's 4 regions are Clwyd Powys, Dyfed, Glamorgan Gwent, and Gwynedd. The regional expertise and service delivery, which was the hallmark of the 4 trusts, has therefore continued seamlessly under the auspices of Heneb. Regional offices remain in use, and the expert colleagues delivering our services have not changed. Today, we number just under 80 staff spread across Wales. Indeed, we're the one national organisation in Wales that cannot be accused of being Cardiff-centric, as our offices are in Bangor, Welshpool, Llandeilo, Baglan and Newport. So what does Heneb do? Well, here on the screen, you can see that we manage the regional historic environment records, about 400,000 of them, and continually adding to these. Documenting the Welsh archaeological and historic sites. We provide archaeological planning services, heritage management advice, and one of the most important things we do is we engage the communities in which we operate to volunteer and to take part in our mission and projects. And last but not least, we're increasingly important stream of activity for the organisation is providing developer-led, sometimes called commercial archaeological services. And that encompasses all sorts of different ways of interacting leading up to excavations from time to time. Now, this rather busy slide documents some of our numbers, non-financial numbers, that is, in 2024. Again, focusing in on engaging communities and volunteers in our work, managing the historic environment records, and providing archaeological and planning services. Around 22 people a day are taking part in our outreach activities, and around 29 per day are taking part in our facilitated learning programs. 664 inquiries were made by members of the public into the historic environment record, which is about 3 inquiries per day. It could always be more, but the public is curious about the past. And we also handle around 85 planning applications per day. Now, the 4 archaeological trusts had been operating for nearly 50 years, providing a comprehensive and well-established network of archaeological expertise across the country. And Heneb is now continuing that work, maintaining the historic environment records and providing other services. The system is unique to Wales and has no direct equivalent in other parts of the UK. And this distinctive approach has a strong public service and in our view, public service ethos. And in our view, the Welsh way allows for better national programmes and, importantly, better community engagement. In recent years, growing income from developer-led archaeology provides an opportunity for Heneb to fund more in terms of proactive research and to grow even faster our engagement in the communities. And I'd like to stress, we're not here to make money. We're here to grow our reach so that we can do more in Wales and reveal more about the history of our country. So what was the rationale for creating the National Heritage Organisation that is Heneb, and how did we achieve this? The decision to merge the 4 historic trusts had already been taken by the trustees of those 4 charities before they set out to find a new chair early in 2024, which is when I became involved. I'd like to pay tribute to those trustees for their vision and downright hard work in steering the process towards launching Heneb on the 1st of April last year. Indeed, the run-up to the merger, in the run-up to the merger, we had to be very hands-on with weekly board meetings. And at times, the list of regulatory and compliance tasks that had to be accomplished looked extremely daunting. But we kept our eye on the prize, and guided by legal and accounting advice, we successfully merged on the 1st of April last year. Forming a board with diverse skills and moving quickly to establish the executive leadership team with an organisational structure capable of delivering a new 5-year strategic plan were critical initial tasks. And one of the most important features of Heneb's board for me is that we have diverse skills on that board well beyond archaeology and heritage management and experience in charity governance. We put a high importance on financial control, and we have the luxury of not 1, but 2 chartered accountants on the board. Communication and advocacy is another focus for us, and beyond what the rest of the board can do, we have a seasoned professional in Stefan Williams, who's sitting at the back there, prominent London Welshman, to advise us on this area, which many find baffling, actually, but there's definitely room for professionalism in that area, and we're fortunate to have that on our board. I've mentioned the importance of the Welsh language, and 3 of us were brought up in Welsh-speaking homes, and 3 others have learned to a fluency, to either fluency or a high level of proficiency. I could go on. 2 knowledgeable about environmental sustainability, 3 competent on pensions even, but all committed to diversity and inclusion, safeguarding, and providing Heneb with the best governance oversight possible, alongside being passionate, of course, about the archaeology of Wales. The rationale for creating Heneb was ambitious. The first aspect was increasing competitiveness to strengthen Heneb's position when bidding for development-funded contracts by using our resources more efficiently across Wales. The second was to facilitate sharing best practices across our regions more effectively and deploy learnings from one region to another to stay at the cutting edge. Thirdly, again, a scale point, to be more attractive, to be a more attractive and more equal partner with other archaeological units when large field teams are required. The fourth reason was to be able to speak for the archaeology, for archaeology and become a significant voice when heritage in Wales is discussed. And we felt that the voice of archaeology with the four smaller organisations was not present at that table. It was also important for the board to maintain the regional expertise and the decentralised service delivery that was a hallmark of the four individual trusts. So I'm now going to hand over to Richard Nichols, our first chief executive, whose first few months in post were spent developing a 5-year strategy through extensive consultation with colleagues across the organisation and with the board, as well as with our stakeholders externally. So Richard.
Diolch, Carol. I'm probably going to go off script in terms of what's on the slides here, but Carol has said, how brilliant it is that we've got a fantastic group of trustees that support us. And I want to acknowledge how fantastic it is to have Carol as our chair, because she's been absolutely superb. And we've known Carol for a number of years, but it is brilliant that she's leading our organisation. So diolch yn fawr. And also to say to Natasha and colleagues here at the Society how privileged we are to be holding our first event in London here at the Society as part of Wales Week in London. And hopefully it's something that we can repeat again on future occasions, because I think Heneb, we should be bringing the work that we do, which we're incredibly proud of, to London every year and showing it off to as wide an audience as we possibly can. So I also want to mention that we've quite literally brought pieces of Wales to London with us today. And I think if you can, please take the opportunity to have a look at some of the objects that we brought with us, and the iPads accompany them, which have a range of information which will inform you about what these items are, where they were discovered, and the background to them. And I would really encourage you to come up as we finish the talk and have a look at those and chat to the team here as well. As Carol mentioned, we've been developing a strategy. The strategy is going to guide us over the next 5 years. It's all about growing Heneb as a sustainable organisation, making sure that we're financially sound, continuing to deliver the fantastic archaeological projects that we do. And I'm not going to bore you too much with the strategy side of things, because I want you to hear about the archaeology. And I want to pass over to my colleagues who are leading some of those really inspiring projects. One thing I do want to say is that the National Lottery Heritage Fund are in it right from the start, and they have very, very generously agreed to support us in developing our organisation to be robust. They've already committed to funding of nearly £250,000 over the next 2 years. And so that's been an incredibly important statement from the National Lottery Heritage Fund to do that right from the beginning of the inception of the new organisation. Diolch yn fawr to all of our colleagues at National Lottery Heritage Fund as well. And here we are in Aberystwyth back in October last year with the Heneb team, where we got together for our first staff away day, of which there'll be many more to come. And we're busy getting to grips with what the new organisation is going to be all about, and the strategic plan, and developing all of that. And really just getting to know each other, because these have been 4 separate organisations until this point. And what's brilliant so far from my point of view as a chief executive is to see my colleagues and how they're interacting with each other, learning from each other, developing the skill sets that We're available in one corner of Wales, but not necessarily in all corners of Wales, and now can be shared right across the country. And I'm delighted to see the progress that we're making already. And I'm going to quickly move on to offering the microphone to John Roberts, who is our head of archaeology, and is going to talk you through some of the project work that we're doing now and in the coming months. Diolch yn fawr.
Noswaith dda pawb, John Roberts ydw I, pennaeth archaeoleg Heneb. Diolch am y cyfle I arddangos ein gwaith. Hello everybody, John Roberts. I am the head of archaeology at Heneb. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about some of our work. Right, briefly, ethics. Archaeology is an inherently destructive process in the sense that what we dig, we take away. But it is also a very important process. And it is an important process that provides valuable information and support schemes. It provides us with research. It provides work for accredited professionals. It allows us to enhance and create robust methodologies for our work. And it creates an important culture and well-being, both for archaeologists and the wider public. So to introduce you to the first project of 7 is the Landscape of Neolithic Axes project. This is located in northwest Wales, and it was a project investigating stone sources for Neolithic axes above Penmaen Mawrth and Llanfairfechan. It's a multi-year project started in January 2020 and provided an important opportunity to investigate a landscape going back 6,000 years where our ancestors were sourcing material to create axes, both for their livelihoods, but also for prestige, for status. The project was created in tandem with our partners at Cadw and at the Carneddau Landscape Partnership, the Eryri National Park, and the Heritage Fund. It was an important opportunity as well to engage with the local community through a network of volunteers and through also the local schools. Here are 2 images of the site in question. This is a view of Dinas Hill above Llanfairfechan, which was the location for our work. And there you can see at the bottom of the hill images of some of the volunteers working on the trenches that we were using to try and identify some of these stone axes working and processing areas. Here are 3 images of some of those volunteers undertaking that work. Volunteers were a vital part of the project, and without them, it would not have succeeded. On the images you can see on the left is when the volunteers are starting to reduce the ground level. As you can see, it's a test bit of a very specific size, a very controlled area, and they're patiently cleaning through. So in the middle image is where they're starting to dig deeper, and in the final image is where you can see them starting to collect some of the axe debris. These images show the material that they have collected from site. On the left, you can see some of the stone axe flakes that would have been generated from the processing. And in the middle image shows you one of those close up. And the final image is a rough out, which is basically the basic form of the axe before it is polished. As I'm sure you can tell from the image, it is quite a large instrument. Once it was polished up, it would then have been fitted inside a wooden implement, so it would function essentially like an axe as we would use today. And later on, you'll be able to see up close examples of the flakes, the rough outs, and a reproduction of a polished axe. Staying within North Wales, but moving on to another project over at Dinas Dinlle, south of Carnarvon, is where we undertook the excavation of an eroding hill fort site. It was a it is a scheduled monument located 30 meters above sea level, but through climate change, the cliff face has slowly been eroding away and a lot of the site is starting to disappear. The project started in 2019 with our partners at Cherish, the Royal Commission, the National Trust, Cadw, Aberystwyth University and Bangor University. And it was another fantastic opportunity to work with volunteers to allow the wider public to engage directly with the archaeology of their area. At the start of the scheme, we employed non-intrusive practices to survey the site to determine the potential below-ground archaeology. The benefit of this would then be to allow the teams to pinpoint specific areas for investigation. This image shows those targeted areas. It's a beautiful aerial shot, and you can see at the bottom of the image the cliff face, to give you some appreciation of how close the site was to the erosion. But you can also see from that image of how well preserved the archaeology was, with a roundhouse at the left of the image. And obviously within that image, you can make out some of the archaeologists and volunteers undertaking the work. This slide provides you with some idea of the quality of the artifacts that were recovered. And it also showed us how extensively and longevity and how extensively inhabited the sites were. On the left, you can see examples of the metalworking, a faience bead, and a mortaria. And on the right, you can see a coin from the Diocletian period of the late 3rd and early 4th century. It was a very rewarding site. One particular practice we employed at Dinas Dinlle was photogrammetry, and which we used to create 3D models of features and archaeological activity. And the aim of this was to supplement the more traditional drawn and photographic site records. And it also provides an opportunity to showcase our work in a different way. And it also allows us tools with which we can measure and physically interact with the archaeology. This image shows you trench 1, which you could see earlier from the overhead shot. What this then allowed us to do was to generate orthographic images of the site. So on the left is an overhead photo that was generated through the 3D model, and on the right is a detailed digital illustration of that same feature, allowing us to demonstrate the archaeological activity and the phasing therein. On completion of the fieldwork, a post-excavation phase is now in place. On site, the roundhouse has been consolidated by National Trust and Cadw to enable permanently accessible public display. The reproduction of a slate hearthstone. Educational information has been installed about the hill fort and the excavated roundhouse. And meanwhile, off-site, a radiocarbon dating program is underway, with results expected within the next few weeks to allow us to finalize the reports and then to issue information to the public. As I'm sure you'll agree, it was a very fascinating and very rewarding project. The next project, staying within North Wales and also linked to 3D modelling, was at the National Slate Museum in Llanberis. Working with our partners at Gymdeithas Hynafiaethau, we were employed to undertake an extensive photographic and 3D modelling survey of the museum prior to the redevelopment works which are underway. The museum asked us to undertake 3D models of very specific locations, and this was undertaken through through hundreds of overlapping photographs that were then stitched together through digital software. And what that was allowed us to create with these highly detailed digital models of very specific rooms. I'm sure you can appreciate, even from a distance, how much intricacy there is in those models down to specific tools. And this was a particular requirement of the museum. They wanted to be able to know where to put things back once the museum was re-established. Here are some more examples. I particularly like the one in the middle. You can see individual cogs and all sorts of intricate information that would be incredibly difficult to prepare in any other way. Moving on to our next project, down to Pembrokeshire in southwest Wales, was the Pembrokeshire chariot burial, the first Iron Age chariot burial in Wales. It was identified through a chance discovery in 2018 by a metal detectorist. And then further to a grant-funded excavation was undertaken with the support of the National Lottery Heritage Fund Wales, Cadw, and Gymdeithas Cymru. Through that process, the chariot burial was identified, which provided some incredibly detailed and important information and the recovery of some very important artifacts, including these horse fittings here. And unfortunately, we don't have them here for display today, but you can obviously see how amazing these artifacts were. During the course of the field work, we were able to identify artifacts such as on the left, a sword, and on the right, chariot wheels. And again, it's amazing at what actually survives at such shallow depths. You can again see how much we were able to recover. It's an amazing sight. Moving on over to northeast Wales was the work we've been recently undertaking at Watts Dyke. Watts Dyke is a linear monument consisting of a bank and ditch which ran along the western edge of the Midlands. It's probably a defensive earthwork for the Mercian frontier. Over the past decade, Heneb has been taking samples for scientific dating from different interventions along the dike, and we've been taking both radiocarbon dating and optically stimulated luminescence. The results have been surprisingly variable and have given us some particularly rewarding information about the use of the dike. Here are images of the OSL work being undertaken. You can see that a trench was initially dug through the dike, and then to the bottom left, the OSL dating process. The aim of the OSL dating process is to provide, is to sort of show when the sediments were last exposed to daylight. And it is a particularly fascinating tool to support other dating methods, to provide us with an idea of when these sites were in use. And through the use of OSL, we postulate that some of the activity on sites suggests a construction date during either the reigns of the kings of Macia Cernwulf and his successor Ceolwulf in the late 8th to early 9th century, or from that of Wiglaf from the 830s onwards. So again, another example of the varied techniques that we employ to undertake our work and how rewarding and stimulating that work is. Staying within northeast Wales, we move on to Pont Cysylltau. In this instance, Heneb is supporting the Canal Rivers Trust with a multi-year project of improvements and maintenance at the UNESCO World Heritage Site. There was a once-in-a-decade decision to drain the aqueduct canal and for inspection and repair. And we were employed by the Canal Rivers Trust to undertake detailed recording in a fashion similar to that undertaken at the National Slate Museum, with a sequence of multiple images, which in this instance comprised over 4,000 images undertaken by my colleague Matt Thomas. The resultant model was used to capture details down to individual bolts and has been used by the engineers at the Canal River Trust to complete their condition assessments and to allow their repair works to be undertaken. Here are examples of the model that Matt was able to generate on the left. And there's a picture of Matt himself undertaking the recording, which you can see was a camera attached to a very long pole. I'm glad Matt wasn't scared of heights, because I certainly would be if I was there. Here is an example of the work that we generated, starting at the top with an aerial view and then moving through onto the lateral views and underside of the aqueduct, which again shows through the use of modern technology how much information you can capture and how important the contribution our work can make to a variety of clients and obviously to the archaeological resource. The last archaeological project I will speak about is the work done recently at Basingstoke Abbey in Flintshire, which my colleague Chris here was heavily involved. This has been one of Heneb's key projects over the past few years and is exemplar of the benefits of collaborative working. Through negotiation with Greenfield Valley Park and consultation with CADU, we're able to design a project to excavate the Abbey surroundings to form new interpretation of the Valley Park. The project also provided an opportunity for volunteers and local students to get involved with our excavation and attend a variety of archaeological skills workshops and toolbox talks. The excavations in 2023 aim to identify the potential extent of the monastic complex. We did find some medieval activity, although most of this was from disturbed context associated with the demolition of the abbey. The evaluation did, however, identify Roman period activity surrounding the abbey dated to the late 1st to early 2nd century AD. The 2024 excavation aims to develop understanding of these new discoveries by targeting larger excavations over the areas where potential Roman period activity was identified to the south of the abbey. And here you can see examples of the work undertaken and the quality of the archaeology that was encountered. One of the most prominent features was a stone-lined hearth incorporating a flat-topped pot stone. Material culture recovered from this activity, this settlement activity, suggested that the site was occupied from the late Iron Age to the early Roman period. Artifacts have included a range of Roman fine wares, as well as a late Iron Age triscular mounts. And examples of this work is here for everybody to inspect after the presentation. Here are also further examples of the Roman domestic activity that we identified, including a gully possibly associated with the roundhouse, as well as other examples of the work. The people who settled here seem to have benefited from the presence of the trading patterns and networks within the area. And the Rosset leading got recently found in Wrexham is probably evidence of what type of trade may have been involved. More and more evidence is coming that the activity in Britain and Wales in particular, how important this industry, this network was. And there must have been an insatiable demand for this kind of trading metal. Moving away from our project and turning towards other aspects of what Heneb does and what Heneb contributes. This includes our commitment to Welsh Government priorities through our work. We acknowledge that the heritage and archaeology sector has work to do in improving diversity and representation, and Heneb is no exception. Mapping Our Heritage is a brand new project this year that will engage a wide range of individuals and groups from diverse communities and religious faiths to enhance the historic environment records with their own stories and special places. We developed this project in response to the Anti-Racist Wales Action Plan, or ARWAP. Obtaining funding to deliver projects like this ensures not only a fairer and more inclusive Wales, but a more inclusive historic environment sector as a whole. It also allows us to forge new partnerships with organisations like Peace Mala, pictured here, who bring together groups from across the world for creative collaborations. We also hope it will inspire a diverse next generation of archaeologists as well. Archaeology as a tool for social inclusion. We also see archaeology as a tool for social inclusion and commit resources to educating the public at all things to do with archaeology. Heneb has a vibrant outreach programme providing unique experiences to people across all of Wales. Archaeology has the unique ability to appeal to a wide range of people regardless of age, background or education, and we have a suite of opportunities available through community excavations, heritage open days, archaeology day schools and conferences, sensory sessions and skills workshops, live and online lecture series, work experience, and guided walks. Volunteering opportunities to promote well-being. From the pictures shown before, you'll know by now that Heneb is proud to host volunteers on our digs. We believe this helps well-being through being part of a team with a purpose, as well as being out in the open, and the mental health and physical health benefits this brings. Volunteers are also an asset to us, and we really value their support in the work we do. For example, currently there are plenty of long-term opportunities for volunteers in the Glamorgan Gwent area in the Arddangos project, which takes an innovative approach to heritage management by combining professional expertise with community participation in coastal southeast Wales. We are also looking for volunteers to work with us in-house with historic environment records in North Wales, and their contributions so far have been invaluable. They're there every week, and everything they do makes a contribution to our important work. Additionally, we host hundreds of short-term volunteers for opportunities in excavation, as well as placements for work experience students, including from the universities at Bangor. Newsletters and publication. We produce regular newsletters, and our first Heneb newsletter will be out shortly. Our staff regularly contribute to publications, such as the article evidenced here, and this is an important way to share with the public the value of the work that we do. Getting involved with our communities. Throughout the year, we'll participate in festivals, events, open days, and sensory sessions to engage the public with archaeology. The Festival of Archaeology is a highlight in our programme. It is an annual national festival with events across the UK and an opportunity for us to take to the road and share our work. There is something for everyone, and it fosters a real sense of togetherness through collaboration with the Council for British Archaeology. Schools and universities. Inspiring the archaeologists of tomorrow through engaging educational visits and experiences. With links to STEM subjects in archaeological processes, our school visits are a great way for schools to provide a day of fun for students while educating them in a different way. We have a great relationship with several local schools around our offices and also the Welsh universities. We also attend careers fairs and provide sessions on a variety of archaeological subjects such as geophysical survey, artifact illustration, and pottery analysis. Always with an eye out to inspire the next generation of archaeologists. Walks and talks. We have a programme of archaeological walks and talks throughout the year. These events are always well attended, with many selling out, which really highlights the public appetite for content like this. Traditional class-based lectures are great, but Heneb's outreach team often likes to head outside and take the people to the heritage. The Chwefror project mentioned earlier in South East Wales is an excellent example of this. The coastline is a dynamic environment subject to constant change through the actions of erosion, land use, and climate change, which can both reveal and conceal sites of archaeological interest, but which can also damage and destroy them. We recruited local volunteers and brought them together to record and monitor the coastal heritage of the area and receive training in the processes and practices that we undertake. The information that is generated is then provided to the scheme, and the Arddangos scheme for incorporation into the regional historic environment record. This information is valuable for building up the record, especially at a time when extreme weather risks are on the rise and long-term effects of climate change are in play. Online lecture series. Our YouTube channel has over 140 videos covering projects from across the four trusts, as well as Heneb and our work. It allows us to reach a wider audience, and it allows people to engage with our work at any opportunity. They are free to attend, and hopefully they're an inspirational and educational way to interact. Archaeology days. These are among our most popular events in the year. Most recently, the Clwyd Powys region held their Archaeology Day in Wrexham University. Presentations by Heneb staff members Ian Grant and Chris Matthews and Boris Quarry, and the work mentioned earlier at Basingstoke Abbey were all exceptional and incredibly well received. Our next Archaeology Day will be held in the Dyfed region at Aberystwyth this week on the 7th of March. And again, it allows an opportunity for people to engage directly with the work that we do and allow us to present the work that we find so interesting, stimulating, and rewarding. Right, this is the end of my presentation. I now turn kindly back to Richard to close out the talk. Thank you.
Diolch, John. I think it was a whistle-stop tour around Wales and a really fabulous showcase of all of the projects that we were engaged in and that we've been working on. And it was quite therapeutic, I felt, listening to your presentation, John, because here in central London, just seeing all those images of how beautiful our country is in Wales, I felt quite inspired just, seeing the pictures, really. And I suppose that just a couple of comments, really. Most of the work that Heneb does is funded either through the support that we get from Welsh Government via CADW. CADW are our principal sponsors, and the advice services that we offer are funded through them, and that's incredibly important to us. Just over half of what we do is funded through the developer-led work that John mentioned. So 90% of the work on the commercial side, field services work, is funded through contracts that we have with developers. Very small amount of what we do is funded through donations and sponsorship, but obviously that's something that we hope to grow. And we'd encourage anybody to take an interest in us, look at our new website, which looks absolutely brilliant. And there's an opportunity through that to sign up as a member. So please take that opportunity. It costs £4 a month, which is just less than a cup of coffee down the road in Starbucks. So definitely worth doing, and gives you all sorts of advanced opportunities to get involved as a volunteer in the digs that we do and everything else that Heneb encompasses. So please have a look at that. And that really brings us to the end of our presentation. We hope that you've enjoyed it. And what we'd like to do now is I'm going to ask my colleague Chris Matthews is here, who's been leading the Basingstoke Abbey project, which is, as John mentioned, has been a truly inspirational piece of work. And all of the other things that John has gone through. I'm just going to see and ask my colleagues if they'd like to answer any questions that come up from the audience that we've got here. So would anybody like to ask any questions before we finish? Diolch yn fawr.